Cool. Thanks, everybody. So my word is brave, but I'd like to start with a different word if I could. I'd like to start with the word fear, the F word. Well, it's one F word. There's a lot of F words. Fear is a pretty strong word because it's a pretty strong emotion. You know, when we experience fear, our heart rate goes up, our ability to make decisions goes down. We get nervous, we get anxious. Maybe we're afraid that the people who are upstairs running the spotlights won't be able to keep up with us on the stage. Right? So I want to talk more about brave, because the way we can combat this fear is by being brave. And when I'm done here, I want to leave you with 3 things you can do as teachers to be brave in this changing world that creates so much fear. So if I haven't mentioned it already, my name is Michael Hakkarinen. If you're on Twitter, or if you're just getting on Twitter, you can follow me at edtechhack. When your last name is Hakkarinen and you work with technology, how can you resist a name like that, right? So while you're getting on Twitter, pardon me while I tweet a picture of myself doing a TED Talk. Can't resist. Should I do the duck lips? Got it. Okay, so I want to tell you a little bit about this change and talk about the fear we experience. I'm going to start with my start in education at the University of Maryland in 1990-94, where I was an English major. And I read this book, Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. And if you haven't read this book, it was written in 1932. And what's going on here is Aldous Huxley, he has fear of the future. He perceives this potential of dystopian society in a not too distant future from ours, where technology starts to change people's identities. Now, 2 pieces of irony here. The first one is that in 1932, cutting edge technology was a typewriter. The other piece of irony is that as a freshman in college, I wrote my paper on a computer like this, which wasn't too much different than a typewriter. I had 2 floppy drives in case I ever needed to make a copy of something, so that was pretty cool. When I finished with an English degree, I kind of was in this spot where I didn't know who I was or who I wanted to be. And I was like, what am I going to do with an English degree other than be a teacher or go to graduate school? So I saw this quote from Gandhi, "Be the change you want to see in the world." And I thought, oh, I know what I need to do. I'm going to go to graduate school and become a teacher. So I went to Mount St. Mary's, where they had 2 classes at the time on instructional technology. I took them both and I did pretty well at it, and I didn't even realize that, hey, I'm kind of good with this stuff. But after a while, I got this job working at Lewistown Elementary, a small rural elementary school with about 1 classroom per grade level. And in each classroom was 1 computer. Not much different than the one I used as a freshman in college to write that paper, right? The thing was, whenever my principal would come into the room to see how I was integrating it into my teaching, it usually looked like that. So a new school opens up, right? I think I've got all the answers. I'm going to go work at this new school that has all this money, and they're going to buy all this technology. Not desktops, but laptops. And along with the laptops, there's a lot more. There's these interactive whiteboards. There's these remotes for students to interact with and collect data. I thought, this is going to be great. So the principal hired me there and said, I want you to help learn how to use this stuff. So he would come in and observe my class, and my computer would look like that. But there was one piece of technology that was really powerful, and I noticed a new trend in where we were going in instructional technology. These handheld palms meant that the technology was now portable. Handheld technology was huge in 2005. We didn't have to take students to the computer lab. We could bring the computer lab to the kids. Principals could have their meetings with their laptops and be able to connect with teachers right there in the room. Kids could go outside and use a GPS device to literally get lost. And with those changes, I also noticed this. Everything was becoming more interactive. Not just portable, but touchable. So now, you don't bring a kid up to the board, you bring a kid up to the screen. And when they drive the screen, they're driving the teacher's computer and interacting digitally with the content. Elementary school kids loved it. And the secondary kids, even though they don't like to go to the front of the room, they liked it too because we put a remote in everyone's hand and they could take a test without using any paper. They could respond all at once. The teachers started to use their phones more and more. They've got their phones out for the calendar, as a plan book, as a grade book, maybe even as a camera. And that leads us to the third change I noticed, connected. Suddenly, everyone is online everywhere. So, our students are engaged now with devices connected to the internet. All of their learning styles are tapped into, auditory, visual, kinesthetic. Science teachers are starting to do really cool stuff. This is Mr. Hism. What he's doing here is he's got a wireless network in his room so that the kids' probes in each of their SOAP experiments, the data is being recorded and sent to everybody's iPads or iPhones. So they're not just analyzing their data, they're looking at everybody else in the room as well. Apps like Edmodo allow a teacher to set up a social learning network, kind of like Facebook, but kids can now have open discourse and communication. Look at this computer. This is a special ed staff meeting, and one of the teachers has her laptop out. But if you look closely at the screen, you'll see that she's using Twitter to connect to other teachers who might not be in the meeting. So these trends are nothing new, and they continue today. Computers keep getting smaller, interactivity is expanding, and we're connecting in new ways. 3G, 4G, and with the exception of my microphone, which keeps cutting out. So some things haven't changed, right? We've still got apples. I had an Apple at my house, and it was my favorite computer. And apples are still my favorite computers. They just look a little different, and they're not in our house, they're in our pocket. So there's the big word. We've heard it today, ubiquitous. When everything is portable, interactive, and connected, it's everywhere. It's in everything we do. Things like Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and Snapchat mean that not only are we connected, but we can tell everybody what we're doing every second of the day, even take our picture during a TED Talk. Mark Zuckerberg created Facebook. He's a billionaire. Just looked at it today, he's worth about $18 billion. And he was born in 1984. So think about this for a second. If you're a teacher in this room and you taught in elementary school or middle school from like 1990 to 2000, you probably had him in your class or could have had him in your class. Go back and tell yourself back then that one of your students is going to create a billion-dollar empire based on a product that's available on the internet and your phone, and you say, what's that? And is free to customers. Now go forward the same amount of time, and what do you think kids are going to be using then? Twitter, for example, just went out on IPO yesterday on the stock market. It was invented by a group of guys who thought that text messaging was too expensive. So they figured out how to send these messages on the internet. Now everybody's on Twitter, and if I haven't mentioned it already, you can follow me at EdTechHack. That's just one H, two Ks at the end for Hakkarinen. Okay, if you don't want to follow me, follow Charlie Sheen, right? Find out about all the important stuff happening in the world and who's cooler, him or Ashton Kutcher. Or you could follow your congressman. Or don't. Or you could start a revolution. If it wasn't for Twitter, we wouldn't have the progress with democracy that we see in Iraq, Iran, and Egypt. Twitter allows people to communicate. Instagram is kind of like Twitter, except you take pictures and you post them, not a 140 character tweet. And with Instagram, you can do things like my daughter does. She posts pictures of all of her accomplishments, whether she's biking or skiing or playing with the dog. And everyone can follow her and see her sort of like photo journal. I don't think we want to know what congressmen would do on Instagram. Now then there's Snapchat. Snapchat is sort of like Instagram, except that it's for sending text messages, and you can send pictures. Neither one of these are my daughter. What happens is you send a picture to one of your friends, and you set a time for it to evaporate, right? So the person gets that questionable message, and then it just disappears. If he had known about this, maybe he'd still be a congressman. All right, so these are just a couple of the tools that are out there, but what's important is that we live in a really connected world. Look how red it is. The more red, the more penetration in the society of internet users. Iceland is currently leading with 93% of its population online. China has the largest population. There's really no safe place except for maybe the center of Africa. If you were to go to the Central African Republic, the capital Bangui, that's one place where there's not much internet connection, so you'd be safe from pictures of your congressman. I keep bringing up pictures of this poor guy. His name is Wiener. How can I regret, you know? But what I want to talk about is digital citizenship. This is a serious issue. He doesn't have any digital citizenship, and I'm worried about our students. We can make a difference. Let's take a look at this guy, Jack Andreka. You've probably heard of him. He also did a TEDx talk. I don't know if he took his picture in it or not. But what he discovered in a science fair project at age 15 was a test for pancreatic cancer. Now, pancreatic cancer is horrible. The test costs hundreds of dollars, and by the time you get the information, it's too late to treat it. His test costs pennies. And it detects a protein in the early stages early enough that you can treat it. So why do I bring up Jack? Well, Jack's 15 years old. He's using the internet to do research and collaborate with scientists at nearby his home, Johns Hopkins University. Most kids his age are taking pictures of themselves in the mirror and posting their OOTD. You all know what the OOTD is, right? OMG! JK, LOL. I made this one up. Let's keep going. All right, so Jack gets to meet the president, right? Who are these students going to meet? Hopefully not their congressman. But this is a really important question for you teachers. Who will your students become? Who will they become? And that's for you to determine. All right, we have two different realities going on. That's what we've been talking about today. Students have their reality and teachers have theirs, and I made it kind of a yin-yang because there's always a little bit of an exception. But pretty much students see technology as ubiquitous. It's everywhere they go. They have portable options for every device. Interactivity is a necessity. They're connected 24/7, and up to the date, well, that means up to the minute. What I see with teachers, generally speaking, is this. To teachers, technology is distracting students from their learning and their teaching. It's frustrating to use, frightening new tools, one more thing on our plate. When we compare these two, ubiquitous and portable to distracting, interactive to frustrating, connected means frightening, and up to date means one more thing on our plate, we have a big disconnect here. The student reality looks like this. Is it muted? This is my, I'm going to brag about my family for a couple minutes here. This is my nephew, Floyd. He's playing on an iPad. It's his mother's iPad, my sister. She works for a company that makes medical textbooks that are now going onto iPads. This is the very same iPad she tests all those out on. And what Floyd likes to do is move around dirt. So you can see that. Good job, Floyd. So he moved the dirt with his bulldozer, but there's still a little bit of dirt left. So what does he do? He taps on it because he knows that's what makes the bulldozer move, pick up the dirt, and move it away. I didn't give him any instructions on this. I just, put the app on there. Give me a high five. Floyd figured all of that out on his own, right? He's not even 2 years old in this movie. I show you this because pretty soon Floyd's going to figure out Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat. He's going to figure this out on his own the same way he figured out how to move dirt around on an iPad. I know this because my daughter figured out how to make her own website. I didn't teach her to use Weebly or help her set up an account. She just jumped on and figured it out. She connects her computer to her camera, she downloads her pictures, she posts them online, she sends out the link. It's amazing. My son, he's in 8th grade. He can't go anywhere or do anything without a GoPro strapped to him. He takes the footage from that camera, edits it, puts it on YouTube, where he's made his own channel. Right now, it's pretty impressive. Again, I didn't teach him any of this, but the movie of him parasailing with Grandma has 690 views, and last time I checked, that's more than Charlie Sheen's newest show gets on TV. So, here's the teacher reality. Let's compare the two. The other F word. I know there's more than one. Frustration and fear. I hear this a lot when I do a technology training. Technology doesn't like me. Hey, you're going to log on. All you need is your username and password. I can't remember my password. Technology doesn't like me. Or this one. Oh, I'm not a Facebook person. I don't want everyone in the world to know what I'm doing all the time. I don't want everybody watching me. Well, Facebook is where your students are. Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all the other places. They live here and we don't. But he does. So, this is what I hear people saying sometimes. Knowing what kids do on the internet is not my job. It's not. It's your reality. None of us became teachers because we want to stand around at a memorial service or a funeral or take a report from somebody that's been bullied or victimized and say, oh, that's not my job. We need to face these fears. We need to be active online in the world of our students. If Floyd can learn how to use an iPad at the age of 1 or 2 years old, why can't Grandpa learn to use it at 62? Well, he can. And if a kindergartner can learn to use an interactive whiteboard in their first year of school, why can't a teacher learn how to use it in their 31st year of teaching? They can too. We need to be brave. We need to be online. We need to be on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I can't think of a single educational use for Snapchat, but we need to know what it is. This is Liz. Liz was one of my first year of teaching. She was in my 4th grade class. She's now in Europe and she's studying in Paris and she's an art major. And what she does on Facebook is amazing. She posts pictures of art that she sees and gives little descriptions. So now, I don't know that much about art. When I go on Facebook, I see what Liz has to say. Liz has gone from being one of my students to being one of my teachers. You don't have to be on Facebook as you yourself personally. You could set up an account for your school and connect with your students and parents. And that way, when kids go online, they see us there and know that we're out there. You can just jump on Twitter and you don't have to post anything or take pictures of yourself. Follow us. Follow the Canyon School District EdTech department that put on this talk. Or follow me. If I haven't mentioned it already, I'm at EdTechHack. That's 1 H and 2 Ks at the end. Try something new in your classroom, maybe an iPad, bring them in. Try out Edmodo, set it up with your class. Don't worry if you have problems with these things, because there's probably 20 to 30 people that are willing to help you. Or you could follow someone online, like John Samuelson, who has an iPad tips. And finally, be brave, behave. If you're going to be on Twitter or Facebook as a teacher, act like a teacher. You'll find out that former students of yours might be driving tractors and running a farm. Or you might find out that one of your former students is going to nursing school and about to get engaged to a Marine who hopefully will be back soon so they can get married. Be the change you want to see on the world, right? It's a bumper sticker. It's not the real quote. It was shortened. Imagine if Gandhi lived today, he'd have to make it a tweet. This is the real quote. If we could change ourselves, the tendencies in the world would also change. As a man changes his own nature, so does the attitude of the world change towards him. We need not wait to see what others do. For the sake of our students, we can't afford to wait. So I ask that you change your tendencies. If you're one of those people that says technology is great when it works, think about this. So's life support. But when I'm on life support, I hope that the young doctor or nurse didn't go to school with teachers who were afraid of technology, right? Be brave, be online. Be brave, try something new. Be brave and behave. And with that, I'd like to ask HYLMTT, how'd you like my TED Talk? Thanks a lot, guys.